We are being joined by Edward P. Joseph from Washington, D.C. He's a foreign policy analyst and a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University. Welcome to the broadcast, Edward. We're trying to find out who would have incentive to carry out such a brazen attack. And then the question remains whether or not this was a security breach and how these drones even got that far all the way to the Kremlin. What are your thoughts on who may be responsible?
Well, first of all, as your report just indicated, the facts are very thin. We simply know very little about this. And the one thing we do know in terms of official U.S. Reaction to this is not only did the U.S. absolutely and flatly deny it was behind this, which is completely credible. Why would the U.S. Support such a brazen action when President Biden has made it clear he doesn't want any type of direct confrontation between the United States and Russia, and that's been U.S. policy all along, and it's been reflected in the U.S. posture in terms of the weapons it provides for Ukraine to defend itself against this unprovoked invasion. So that allegation by Russia really has no credibility behind it. But what is interesting is that the Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that if Ukraine took such measures, that they're decisions for Ukraine to make. This was interesting. This was stated yesterday by Secretary of State Blinken. In other words, that it's that the U.S. is not imposing some type of barrier on the actions that Ukraine would take. Again, though, we have a flat denial by President Zelensky, as you quoted in your report, and that is unusual because typically Ukraine, when there are these cases that have been cited, Ukraine simply says nothing. It says basically we neither confirm nor deny. But in this case, you have a flat denial by President Zelensky of any Ukrainian involvement in this. And so your question remains open. It's difficult to assess who was behind this and what was behind this. Secretary Blinken expressed deep skepticism about any Russian claims on this. So it still remains quite murky. Please.
Vladimir Putin and the Russians seem convinced, however. Around 21 Ukrainians died just early in the hours of this morning and last night when Russia unleashed a barrage of bombs, possibly in retaliation to this so-called assassination attempt against Vladimir Putin, and then a wave of kamikaze drones in Kyiv and Odessa. Regardless, are we seeing a new chapter in the Ukraine-Russia war at this point?
We may be. There's great anticipation, of course, that Ukraine would conduct a military offensive this spring coming up now. There's been great anticipation and talk about a Ukrainian offensive, and this could be the Russian attempt to preempt that offensive. Again, here, what's very important for your listeners and your viewers to understand is that these are not parallel actions. The Ukrainian offensive goes against military targets in Ukraine on its territory, while Russia has invaded sovereign Ukrainian territory and attacks civilian targets. We should understand these are not accidental casualties. These are deliberate attacks on civilian targets by Russia, as it has done from the outset of the war. And we saw President Zelensky visit the Netherlands and call there for where the International Criminal Court is headquartered and to call for accountability for President Putin for war crimes in this unprovoked invasion. Please.